Hi there, I'm going to be talking granny squares. I don't know if you've already seen this magazine out, and I don't know if you've heard of Granny Square Day. I suspect you have. If you're a crocheter, I think it's a little bit hard to miss. But if you haven't, here's a little bit of history about it. It was actually set off in 2014 by, I hope I'm going to pronounce this lady's name right, apologies if not, Susan Regalia. And she started it and it became so successful. I think she was probably quite surprised, but everybody loves a granny square, don't they? And by the time we got to 2017, it was handed over to Simply Crochet magazine to continue it. Excuse my glasses, they keep falling down. I am so warm in here. I don't know what the temperature's like where you are, but we're certainly not used to it too hot here in the UK, and it is hot at the moment. And obviously this granny square has become quite the international, should I say, sensation. There are hashtags you can look at. We have Granny Square Makes this year, hashtag Granny Square Makes 2021, of course, and just Granny Square Day 2021. And basically on the Instagram, they actually create a virtual blanket. So if you submit your squares on there, it's then put onto a blanket, which is absolutely amazing. Now, as an actual contributor to Simply Crochet magazine myself, I have actually got one of my squares in this one, which is a supplement. And it's not just, well, it is just granny squares, but it's everything you can do with the granny square as well. Fabulous book. I picked mine up the other day and I've got permission to do one of my squares that is in this one. I'm also lucky enough to have one in the up and coming magazine, which is coming up in August. Now, the actual Granny Square Day, I've got to get my date right here because I keep getting it wrong. It is the 15th of August. So you can still obviously upload all your pictures before that, but the actual day is 15th of August, where you'll see probably hundreds and hundreds of granny squares on there. And it's amazing the imagination people have got. There's some absolutely out of this world ones, but to be honest, I absolutely adore the basic everyday run-of-the-mill traditional old-fashioned granny square, which isn't what I'm going to do today, but it's you can't go wrong, can you? You can make a tiny blanket, a massive blanket. You can do anything with that granny square. That's what this booklet's quite good about. I'm just going to quickly find the page. I'm not going to show the pattern on there. Obviously, if you do want to get this magazine, it is in our supermarket here. I know you can get it online as well, but just a little preview. This is the one that I'm going to be doing today. This is the one that is my submission in here. It's actually last year's granny square one that I did submit, but they've popped it in here, which is really nice. So I'm quite excited about that. So I have remade it and we're going to make it today. Now I'm just having a look at some other information, which I'll probably tell you as we go along with this, rather than me trying to read it and not looking at you, which is not good. But there is lots more information on the granny squares and about Granny Square Day, the charity element of it, and just the whole everybody getting together. But as I say, if you haven't already got this book, I would definitely pop down and get it, because it's not just the squares again, it's how-tos and all those other pieces of information. So even as a beginner, it's something you can set off with, and as soon as you start a granny square, that is it, you are addicted. So I'm now going to go top down so we can actually see me do the granny square, and I will see you all in a moment. Bye bye for now. Hi, we're now going to actually make the granny square. Now, obviously this isn't a traditional granny square, but there are so many different varieties of granny squares, it's hard to know where to start. That is why a book like this is great, but this isn't just granny squares, this is what you can do with a granny square, and believe you me, I think it is infinite. I've got a granny square coming up in the next one, as I've mentioned, which is actually the Simply Crochet. This is made by the same publishers as Simply Crochet, but I have got one in on the 5th of August, which is going to be, they're doing a supplement, a granny square supplement. So they're all brand new granny squares. So there's even more granny squares for you to have a go at. And that is the one that really is going to highlight the actual Granny Square Day on the 15th of August. Now, there are bits and pieces I'm going to tell you as we go along. I'm going to move the book out of the way, but as you can see from the front cover, there's loads of things actually in there. I'm just going to turn to the page. So I'm actually going to be reading my own pattern, which is a bit mad, isn't it? You think I should know it by now. But I don't. I am a so-and-so. I'm trying to find somewhere to put it. Where can I put it? I haven't got any room on here. I've been doing so many things today. It's my son's birthday today, so I've been sort of messing about making birthday cakes and everything else. This is my little list of things to tell you. So I've got to make sure I tell you everything as well. But basically, this is done in a double knit yarn. Of course, you can do it in any yarn. You'll get a smaller or a larger square, depending on what you're using. These are UK terms as well. I'm pretty sure in the back of the book there is a conversion. There usually is in the back of Simply Crochet anyway. But I have my needles and I'm actually using a 3.5mm. I know a lot of people like to use a 4 for doing actual double knit. That's okay, whatever suits you. But be aware, if you're making lots of squares, you need to make sure they're consistent so they'll go together, because otherwise you're going to get different sizes. And I've got my needle there. I've kept the colours that are in the book. It's a very summery sort of colour. It's not a colour I would particularly use, but I think it works for this design. But you could also do it as a Christmassy one. It'd look quite nice as a red sort of poinsettia perhaps, and you could do sort of red or green or white outside. So it's quite a sort of versatile square, should we say. So these are my yarns. I'm going to move those two out of the way, and we're going to start with this orange one in the center. Now they've classed the skill level, as this one is, as a bit tricky. Perhaps so, because you're turning the work over and perhaps that's not something you're used to doing. But when you get the hang of it, it's not tricky at all. It's just something you may need to think about if you haven't done it before. So we're going to start with our slip knot. These supplements do have squares that are suitable for beginners as well. I think it's one of the first things a lot of people do actually make. So on the hook, not overly tight, and we're going to start with 6 chain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Now we need to change that 6 chain into a little loop, so I'm going to go into the very first one, first chain. Make sure you catch the right bit. I'm going to grab my yarn. I'm going to make a slip stitch, so I pull it through and pull it through. Now you need to be aware where that hole is, because sometimes it's very easy to go in the top there, which isn't where you need to be. We're going to do 1 chain, and then we're going to do another chain, because I need to read my pattern properly, and this is going to count as a half treble. We are now going to do another half treble into that loop. So a half treble, you pull through all 3. So we have that is equal to half treble, that is a half treble. We're going to have 2 chain, then we're going to have 2 half trebles. We have 1, so it comes through all the way, and 2 all the way, 2 chain. So you can see what we're repeating. Can you see what I did then? I just sort of shuffled it along because I've got quite a few to fit in there. I'm just looking whether this is close enough. I think I'm going to move the camera so it's a little bit closer, so excuse the change. Ta-da! You can now see me a little bit closer. Excuse my poor dry hands at the moment. Obviously we're still using sanitizers and still washing our hands quite a lot, but unfortunately it doesn't agree with me. I'm using lots of different hand creams and it's still not working, but it's more important to be safe. So we have our 2 chain here. We're going to have 2 half trebles. So it comes through, it comes through all 3 half trebles, don't they? And through all 3, 2 chain, 2 trebles, or not, because I dropped the stitch. Off we go again. 2 trebles, 1, 2. I'm just shuffling it round because I know there's a bit to fit in there. 2 chain, 2 half trebles, 2 chain, 2 half trebles. Move it around a bit. Now I'm going to do a little quick count here, because what we need is 16 stitches in total, but that's 2 sets of the 8s. So if we count them as 2 together, so it's 2 there, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I need 2 more sets here. So it's 2 chain, 2 trebles. That's my 7th. 2 chain, 2 trebles. Always do a double count at the end, because if you haven't got the right amount here, 2 chain, you won't have enough for the next round, and then it'll spoil your work. So we have 1 set, 2 set, 3 set, 4 set, 5, 6, 7 and 8 with the 2 chain. I'm now going to go into the top of that first 2 chain and we're going to slip in there with a slip stitch and we're going to fasten off. Now you'll note that looks like there's quite a big hole there compared with this one. Don't over worry about that. Hopefully if your slip stitch is okay, you should be able to do this. Boop. And it tightens up. Now if it hasn't for some reason, don't panic. You can leave it a little bit open anyway if you want to. There's no reason to say why you should or you shouldn't. But if it really does bother you, what you can do when you're finished, when you're actually sewing in these ends, you can run this round a couple of times and it tightens it up even further. Now you can't see much definition now. It's like one of those things where you sort of do one row and it takes the next one to show where you've actually gone. So we're going to pop the orange to one side because we don't need the orange anymore. We're going to move on to this lovely sort of mustardy colour. I had to re-roll these up yesterday. They were all, I took them out of the box and they're absolutely everywhere. So we get our yarn in position ready. And I'm just double checking where we've got. We're going to slip into any of the 2 chain spaces. Double check. It's like I say, I'm reading my own pattern here, which is a little bit weird because I should know what it is. But it was a long time ago. Where have I got it? So we're going to just slip into one of these 2 chain spaces. And we're going to grab the yarn through first and you're going to do 1 chain. But that doesn't count as anything. Now in that 2 chain space you're going to do 1 double crochet, 7 chain, 1 double crochet. Okay, so we go in 1 double crochet, 7 chain, 1 2 3 4 5 6 and 7, and back into the same space a double crochet. Watch this. Can you see how it's twisting and that's sort of getting underneath it? Just give it a little nudge so it's at the back and it'll make it a little bit easier for you. So that's our double crochet. We're now literally going to jump into the next 2 chain space and do the same. 1 double crochet, 1 2 3 4 5 6 and 7, and 1 double crochet back into the same space. So can you see what we're getting? We're going to like these little sets of chains. So we're going to do that in every single one of these. These are the foundation for these petals. That's where we're going to work them for. So into the next one, 1 double crochet, 7 chain, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, and double crochet into the same space. It does look a little bit weird and a bit spidery at this point. Right, let me just undo some of this yarn because it's starting to roll around at the table and I don't want it falling on the floor, so I'm just going to unwind a little bit of it so it's ready. So I'm going to continue round. Hopefully you're going to continue with me. If you need to stop or pause me at any point, that is usually the best way to follow, because like I say, you're going to do the same in every single one. It's going to be 1 double crochet, 7 chain, 1 double crochet in each of the 2 chain spaces to give us the basis of our petals. And while I'm sort of doing that with yourself, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about these granny squares, because I mentioned the fact that there's a charity element. 1 2 3 4 5 6, I'm going to have to count these, 7, and double crochet in. Okay, now the charity they've actually signed up with this year, they're called Woolly Hugs. I'm going to stop and tell you a little bit about this. Now Woolly Hugs, they take on the granny squares, they make blankets, they make them for children's hospices, refuge centres, for cancer patients. And what we've done as a contributor anyway, Simply Crochet asked us to sort of give in the squares, also donate the fees that we would normally have, and also donate the squares that got sent off. So it's a nice sort of charity idea. I'd definitely check out the charity, see what they get up to, see how they'll take other donations and things like that. But it is nice to think, you know, it's actually sort of serving a purpose as well. I do know there's a lot of hospitals, etc. do this. So if you're in an area where there is such places, might be worth asking if they would like a blanket making, or if they take donations of various bits, or if there's somebody there that likes to put the squares together for the people there, because they do look lovely and they are really nice, and I think it's really thoughtful. Sort of, you've put that effort into it, and it is a caring thing, I think. So there is the charity element of these granny square days as well. It's not just making granny squares. Right, into my next one. Double crochet, 1 2 3 4 5 6 and 7 into there. You've probably caught up with me. You've probably gone past me now, haven't you? Right, into the next one, double crochet, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. Back in. Like I say, it does look a little bit messy, doesn't it, at this point? We have 2 more, so you can see there's 1 there and 1 there. In we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, and back in the same space. We have 1 more to go. In we go, and we have 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. Back in. Now for our actual slip stitch, which you usually finish a round with, we're going to go into that very first double crochet you did. So give it a little wiggle, get in there, and it's just a slip stitch. And you're in. So that gives us the foundation for our petals. We now need to make the petals. So we have a group of stitches in each of these chain spaces. Now we're going to be doing 1 double crochet. We're going to be doing 2 half trebles. We're going to be doing 3 trebles, 1 picot. Don't worry about that if you don't know what they are. I'll go through it. 2 trebles, 2 half trebles, and 1 double crochet. That sounds a lot to do, but we'll do it nice and slowly. So, and it's the same in every single square, I was going to say then, in every single one of these chains. So 1 double crochet, 2 half trebles. Remember the half trebles, it comes through all of them, 3 trebles. Now with trebles, we're going to go 1 and 2. Yeah, another one. 1 and 2. 1 more. 1 and 2. Now this is the picot. It's a fancy word for something that's very simple. You do 3 chain, 1, 2 and 3. Now a lot of patterns will tell you to go back in to that 3rd chain from the hook. I actually do pop in there, which is where the last stitch was. Entirely up to you. So I sort of like go back into the top of that last treble, but most patterns will tell you to go back into the first of those 3 you've done. Entirely up to you. I'm going to go into this one because it's what I'm used to doing, and I'm going to do a slip stitch. Yep, I'm going to do 2 trebles. 1, 2. Undo the yarn a bit. Needed more than I thought. 2 half trebles. Remember, it comes through all 3 for a half treble. If these get in the way as well, what I find is easier just to fold them out the way like that. So we need another half treble and then a double crochet, and that's your first one done. Okay, so we can unfold that, fold that back. We're moving on to this one, and it is 1 double crochet, 2 half trebles all the way through, 3 trebles. That's 1, 2 and 3. We have the picot, 1, 2 and 3, and I'm going in there. You go wherever you're used to doing your picot. Right, it doesn't make any difference, just maybe slight definition difference on the point, but I don't think it makes that much difference. So just shuffle them around if you feel like you're running out of space there. Fold the others back, 2 trebles, 1, 2, 2 half trebles. Half treble, it comes through all 3, and a double crochet. So that's our second petal gone. Moving on to our next one, so I'm folding that one down, double crochet, 2 half trebles, 1 and 2, 2 trebles. We need 3 trebles. What am I on about? 1, 2 and 3. Picot time. 1, 2 and 3 into whichever stitch you're going into, and slip stitch picot. 2 trebles, 1, 2, 2 half trebles all the way through 3, and 1 double crochet. So you can see we have some petals forming now. Like with all crochet, I mean, for example, this one hasn't been blocked. I only did it last night just to check that I could remember what the pattern was more than anything else without having to look at it too much.
So that's why I had a go at that. So it hasn't been blocked. I don't, to be honest, I have a tendency not to block my work depending on what I'm making, because I think sometimes with something like this, it usually sits quite square anyway. And then if you're going to be sewing it onto others and things like that, I don't usually find it a big issue. But I know, in fact, I think there's a free blocking square on the next Simply Crochet as well, so it might be worth having a look at that if it is something. I might try it myself if there's one on there actually, but I generally don't bother. It's a nice way of stacking them. If you are doing that and you've got a stacking thing, you can sort of just pop each one on top of each other, and then you know that they are square with each other, because sometimes you can get a change depending. I know when I first started doing them, I'd make a granny square and then I didn't do anything for months, and then I did another one, I'm like, oh, it's a different size. That just comes with practice. So let's get on with these, shall we? Next one double crochet, 2 trebles, half trebles, naughty me, 1, 2. Now we have 3 trebles, 1, 2 and 3, picot time, 1, 2 and 3 into the top of your choice and slip stitch, 2 trebles, 1, 2, 2 half trebles, all the way through 3, all the way through 3 and 1. So we have 4 petals up to now. We have another 4 to go. So fold that one back, because that one's going to be in my way and I want to work in this one. So double crochet, half treble, 3 trebles, 1, 2, 3, 3 chain, 1, 2 and 3. I don't know what's calling. I hope that's not affecting my filming. It did it once before. Right, I'm going to have to try and decline that call. Bear with me, because it's an 0800 number and I haven't got the faintest idea who it actually is. And is it still recording? I'm just checking the numbers are still moving. Are they still moving? Yes, they are. I know once it did it and it completely stopped the filming, which was very annoying. Anyway, we were halfway through a picot, weren't we? We got 3 chain. Picot in the top with a slip stitch. 2 trebles, 1, 2. 2 half trebles, 1 and 2 and a double crochet. We have 3 more to go. Double crochet in, 2 half trebles, 1 and 2, 3 trebles, 1, 2 and 3, 1, 2 and 3, picot into the top, slip stitch, pull it through, 2 trebles, 1, 2. Let me fold that back, it's getting in the way. 2 half trebles, all the way through, and a double crochet. 2 more to go for this part. As soon as you've got this out of the way, to be honest, the rest is quite quick and it comes back very much to a general granny square. So 1 double crochet, 2 half trebles, 3 trebles, 1, well, you're going to go through 1, my wool caught a bit there, 2 and 3, picot, 1, 2 and 3, and slip stitch into the top, 2 trebles, 1, 2, 2 half trebles, 1, 2 and 1 double crochet. Our last petal coming up, 1 double crochet, 2 half trebles, 3 trebles, 1, 2, 3, picot, 1, 2 and 3, slip stitch into the top, fold that one back now because that's in the way, 2 trebles, 2 half trebles, and a double crochet. And to finish off, we're just going to slip stitch down here where we have that first stitch, or not, mine's just come undone. So just a slip stitch. Now we are fastening off yarns. I'm going to turn this over now because it looks a little bit weird like that, but we are fastening off, and I'll show you why. Oh, those scissors are not cutting very well. Now there's lots of ends with this as well, which is a bit of a pain. To be honest, if I was doing this on my own now and not recording it, I would be sewing these ends in. They do get in the way as you're working, and also it saves you a job at the end there. But because obviously we're wanting to move a little bit quicker showing you the video, I'm not going to sew my ends in. But you have a little flower. You could leave that as a little flower. You don't have to have it attached to a granny square, but we are attaching it to a granny square because it's all about Granny Square Day. Now I'm double checking on my quantities. Now what we've got to be working on is wrong side facing. So obviously that's right side, that's wrong side. So we can look as it curls in, that's the right side. So that is the back of our work, and we're going to join in our new colour, which is this really nice buttermilky sort of colour. These are Stylecraft yarns that I'm using. They are one of my favourite double crochet, that's because I was reading double crochet as I spoke then. They are one of my favourite yarns, double knit yarns, which is what I was trying to say. And what I'm doing actually is trying to read. I've got it. Yes, I wanted to check how many chain I was doing on this next one. So I'm going to undo a bit of this one as well. Now, if you do watch my videos, you do know that I do have a tendency to do it warts and all. If I make a mistake, I show you I make a mistake and I redo it. So I do it in real time. I don't stop and start. I don't show you the best bits. I just show you how I crochet. I know sometimes people have said I'm a little bit fast, but again, the beauty of YouTube, you can slow me down, you can stop and start. If you are a beginner and you want to try this actual square, I'd recommend being familiar with a granny square first, but I would also look through it, have a practice, listen to it, and then start it. I know my daughter has just done one similar to this, watching my videos of all things. She started doing during lockdown because obviously I wasn't able to see them properly, so we were doing everything virtually. And she's just sent me a picture of one she's done, the poinsettia that I've got on there. And she's done it, and she's a beginner crocheter, and she's done a really lovely job. So I do believe anyone can do it, but you sometimes need a little bit of patience. That's all it's about. I say I make a lot of mistakes. So I've got my yarn ready in position here. And what I'm doing is, can you see, we did like a double crochet, didn't we, sort of either side. Well, we're just going to pick up one of those. So we've got this wrong side facing. Yep. I'm just going to go in there. And I'm going to pull the yarn through. I'm going to do a chain, and I'm going to do a double crochet in the same space, only because I'm anchoring it. You don't really have to do that, but it just anchors the yarn so it goes nowhere. We're going to have 3 chain, 1, 2 and 3. We're going to jump to the next one of those double crochets, either one, it doesn't matter, and we're going to do a double crochet. Okay, we're going to do 1, 2 and 3 and jump to the next one. It does feel like it's pulling it in, but don't worry, it is okay. Can you see, if you look on here, it has sort of constricted it a little bit. So we do 1, 2 and 3, jump to the next one. It's just the space between the 2 petals you're aiming for. So we do 1, 2 and 3, and the next space. Oh, look, my petal got in the way. We need to keep the petal that side because it does get in your way. So we have 1, 2 and 3. Can you see what I meant about the other bits? Easier if you get rid of them. Keep that petal to one side and pull it through with a double crochet. 1, 2 and 3 into the space and double crochet. 1, 2 and 3 into our space and double crochet. 1, 2, 3. And look, we're at the end already. That was nice and quick. And where we did that first double crochet, that is where we're going to do our slip stitch. So I'm just pulling my yarn a bit tighter there. I pull it through and I pull it through. Now we're not changing yarn colour now, because as you see, this buttermilk now carries on quite a bit. So I'm actually going to turn my work. And I've got sort of the front facing me now. But I'm just folding these petals over because I'm going to be working in to these chains. That is where I think they're sort of counting it as a little bit tricky, because it's the manipulation of the holding of the work, not the actual stitches, that are difficult. So we're going to be working in each of these chain spaces. They're going to be slightly different because, as you can see, it works like a granny square where you can have a corner, a side, a corner, a side, a corner, a side, a corner. That's how I refer to them when I'm working generally, but I know different people do actually refer to them in different ways. I'm just double checking where we started, because there are different ways of doing it, and I have changed how I do mine a little bit nowadays, and I don't want to do that. I want to do it as the pattern in here is showing me. This is great. So I want you to slip stitch into that chain space, because we'd only slip stitched into the actual double crochet, hadn't we? We're doing 3 chain. That counts as our first treble. Let me move that one out of the way because your visual's not very good there. We're going to do 2 more trebles. That's 1 more. That was 1. That was 2. What am I on about? We're going to do 3 chain. That means this is going to be a corner. So we're going to do 3 trebles. I say, if you're familiar with a granny square, you will know where this is going. But if you're not, keep going. You will soon will be. And once you've mastered the granny square, you will want to make hundreds of them. They are very addictive. So if that's a corner, the next one has to be a side. So I'm going to do 1 chain, and then I'm going to do 3 trebles in there. 1, 2, and 3. So that's what I class as a side. So the next one has to be a corner. So just fold your petal over. We're going to do 1 chain. The only time there's 3 chain is if it's between the corner ones. So off we go. So this is going to be a corner. So it's 3 trebles, 3 chain, 1, 2, and 3. And into the same space, 3 trebles, 1, 2, and 3. And just 1 chain, because it's not a corner, the next bit. The next one is a side, so into this space, just 3 trebles. 1, 2, 3, 1 chain. So if that's a side, this is a corner. A corner is 3 trebles, 3 chain, and 3 trebles, all in that same space. Oh, and I dropped my yarn. That's 2. That's 3. We need 3 chain, 1, 2, and 3, and 3 trebles. Looking good. So what we got up to now, we got 1 corner, 2 corner, 3 corners. So you can see that square starting to arrive. So our next one has to be a side, doesn't it? So 1 chain before it, like 1 chain before it and 1 chain after, isn't there? 2 and 3 and 1 chain. So our next one's our corner. A corner means 3 trebles, 3 chain, 1, 2, and 3, 3 trebles back in that same space. 1, 2, and 3, just 1 chain because it's not a corner. Next one's a side, and it's 3 trebles. 1, 2, wool's driving me mad. 3, only 1 chain because it isn't a corner, and slip stitch into the top of that first 3 chain. Now that gives us, you can't really see it yet, but you can see it gives us our first little square. Now this is the next bit I'm doing, isn't something I normally do with my granny squares. I'll go straight from this point, but I do understand that when you're writing a pattern, it's very different sort of, so you'll have to sort of consider how you explain something. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to do 2 slip stitches and then a slip stitch into the corner. This is quite a traditional way of doing it. So it's 1 slip stitch in top of that one, 1 slip stitch in top of there, 1 slip stitch in the corner, and 3 chain. That 3 chain counting as our first treble. And you can see this is a corner, so if it's a corner we need to do another corner in it, and our corner is 3 trebles, exactly the same as the last round. 3 chain, 1, 2, and 3, and 3 trebles. 1, oh, we dropped it. So it's all in the same space, remember. 1, 2, and 3. Now the next one, now you can see we actually have 2 sides, don't we? This is what happens with a granny square. Each row you get, you'll end up with more on the sides and obviously just the 4 corners. So if you do watch my granny square video on here, you will see it is a slightly different technique. It doesn't really matter. There are so many different methods of granny squares and you may have been taught a different way of doing it as well. But at this point, all we are doing is a granny square. So I need 1 chain. And then this is my first side. So if it's a side, it's just 3 trebles. 1, 2, and 3. 1 chain. Next one's also a side. So it's just 3 trebles. 1, 2, and 3. 1 chain. And then you can see we have a corner here. So when it's a 3 chain space, it does have to be 3 trebles, 3 chain and 3 trebles. So off we go. 1, 2, and 3. 3 chain. 1, 2, and 3. 3 trebles into that space. 1, 2, and 3. 1 chain. We have 2 sides now. So in a side, it's just 3 trebles. So we get 1, 2, 3, 1 chain. Second side, 1, 1, 2. Oh, nearly dropped it. 3. This wall's going to end up on the floor. I know it is. 1 chain, because there's always 1 chain either side of those side ones. We have a corner. So we have 1, 2, and 3. 3 chain. 1, 2, and 3. 3 trebles, because we're corners. 1, 2, and 3. And just double check where you are. You can see how the square is coming nicely now, so you can sort of see how it's starting to appear under these petals. We have 2 sides, so it's just 1 chain before the side. My yarn is split. There we go. 3 trebles, 1 chain, 3 trebles, 1, 2, and 3. 1 chain. We're on our last corner. So it's a 3. It's 3, 3, and 3, isn't it? We have 3 trebles, 3 chain, and 3 trebles. So it's quite nice combinations to remember this way as well. Everything's in 3s really, isn't it? 1, 2, and 3, apart from the single. Obviously chains between the side ones. 1, 2, and not 3 because I dropped it, and 3. 1 chain, and we've got 2 sides you can see now. So we need a 3, 1, a 2, and a 3. 1 chain, oh dear, I am dropping it now. Where's it going? 3 treble, 1, 2, and 3. Move that over a bit. I'm sort of moving over here, aren't I? Let me get back to the center. 1 chain and slip stitch into the top of that first 3 chain. So you can see we have 2 now, but as you can look on here, if you count the corners, it's a great way of knowing how many. So you've got a 1 corner, a 2 corner, a 3 a corner even. So it means we need 3 rounds of the granny square, and at the moment we've just got the 2. So we're on to our third one now. So I need to slip stitch into that corner, don't I? So I have a slip stitch, a slip stitch. Now these are just going in at the top of the trebles, and a slip stitch into the corner. And from that corner we're going to do another corner, which you know now is 3 chain, which counts as a treble because each round's going to start with 3 chain. 2 more trebles, 3 chain, 1, 2 and 3, and 3 trebles. That is our corner. And that is never going to change. You can make this as big as you want and you can carry on doing that, and the corner will always be the same, unless it's a different pattern, of course. But the basic granny square, that is what it is. Now if we look at our sides now, we have 1, 2 and 3. So remember, chain 1 before, 3 trebles, 1, 2 and 3, or 1 chain, 3 trebles, 1, 2 and 3, 1 chain, 3 trebles. We're still on the side here. 1, 2, there's 3 sets on the sides now, and 1 chain. You see how it's starting to stand out around the flower as well. I really should not, the ball's on the floor, I knew it would be, but saying that, it's going to run better. Oh, and I knocked my camera. It's going to run better, and I did hoover the floor this morning, so it's okay. Right, corner time. We have 3 trebles, 1, 2 and a half, no, and 3. 3 chain, or 1, 2 and 3, 3 trebles, 1, 2, 3. I think the thing is, if I am going a little bit too fast with you, as long as you don't want to listen to me, which you don't really need to at this point, you can sort of just watch it, and depending on sort of where you're watching it from anyway, English may not be your first language, so you know, you may not be really listening to me anyway, so just slow it down in the settings. It's an easy thing to do. Just look for the little cog down below and it will ask you what speed. I didn't even know that existed till my son taught me, but yes, it's there, so you can slow me down. So we're on a side one now, so it's going to be just 1 chain, isn't it? And look, we have our 3 sides, so it's 3 trebles in each one with a chain either side. 1 chain, second one, 1, 2 and 3, 1 chain. I really like this buttermilk colour actually. We have 3, 1, 2 and 3, 1 chain. We have a corner. You see we're getting a nice square coming now, so it is a nice shape, so you know you're doing it right. You've not got sort of 6 or 3 or something like that. You know you've got proper corners. So we have 3 trebles, 1, 2 and 3 chain, and 3 trebles, 1, 2 and 3 and 1 chain. It's getting a bit harder to hold as well now because that's sort of getting in the way. We have our sides. We've got 1, 2 and 3 sets, haven't we? So we have 3 trebles, 1, 2 and 3, 1 chain, so 1 chain either side, 3 trebles, 1, 2 and 3. I like to show that I do drop stitches, I do have to undo things and things like that, because the thing is, I do believe we're always learning, and I am never going to sort of profess that I know everything. I'm learning as I go. I enjoy what I do, and this is why I hope you enjoy what I actually produce. Because again, if you watch my videos, you know I do a lot of doll based crochet as well, so there's always a mixture on there. So next one is a side. 3 treble, 1, 2 and 3, 1 chain. We have a corner. So corner is 3 treble, 1, 2. Some of you already passed me actually, but I've got to remember everyone's at different levels. 1, 2 and 3, and 3 trebles. 1, 2 and 3. 1 chain, because the next one's only a side, and 3 trebles. We're nearly there. 1, 2 and 3, 1 chain. It's actually, because it's so warm in here, I'm actually finding the yarn sort of, I don't know, for some reason, it's not that my hands are sweaty or anything, but I find as your hands warm up, sometimes the yarn sort of pulls at your hands. I don't know whether you experience that. Please let me know if you do. but if it is a bit warm, I prefer to crochet when it's colder, but I think it's in for a few days, this one. Last side, 1, 2 and 3, 1 chain and slip stitch into the top of that 3, and we're going to finish the buttermilk colour there. So I'm going to crop that yarn. I'm going to leave it on the floor. I'll sort it out after the fact, and we're going to pull that through. So we now have a rather curled up flower. It does flatten, I promise. And we need to do the edge. Now I've just gone back to the mustard colour for that, and all this is a double crochet all the way round. But when we get to these corners, I've done 3 double crochets, because otherwise you'll pull it in tight, so it does need the 3 in the corner, and otherwise it is into each stitch. You will see that in a gap I go into the whole gap. This is an optional thing. It's something I mentioned in one of my other videos. I'll show you as I go as far as that is concerned. So where's our mustard back? Here it is, rolling about. In fact, I might let that drop on the floor. I hope they don't get tangled up together. So you can choose wherever you want to start here. You can start at any point. I think I might start in the top of a side one, because I think that might be a little bit easier. So I'm just going into the top of that treble. I'm going to pull my yarn through. I'm going to do a chain, and then I'm going to do a double crochet back into the same stitch just to anchor it. And then I'm going to do a double crochet in each one. Now it's always hard to see the first one of the 3. This is why, this isn't something you need to do, it's just something I do. I go into the space and I count that as my first one, because then the other 2 are easier to see. But if you just go in the top of each treble, that's all you need to know. We're on a corner, so we get 3. 1, 2, 3. Now watch for that one, because that sometimes gets covered over that first one on a corner. So you do need to make sure you get it, otherwise you're going to sort of spoil the square. So we do end up with 3 at just after a corner. We don't have a choice for that one. Now again, either the top or into the space at that point, but I count that as my first one. And then 1 and 2 into the space is my 1, and then 2 and 3. So if you think about it, you do need to make sure that wherever the top of those are, you're getting 3 stitches in, and whenever it's a corner, you're also getting 3 stitches in. That's all you really need to think about, and it's up to you whether you do it my way or whether you just go into the top of the stitch. So I count that one in the space as the top of the first stitch. I hope that makes sense. 1 and 2 into the space, and then we have, now this is where we started on the other one, so it's sometimes a little bit tricky to get in there. 1, that's why I didn't start where I finished, because it can be a bit annoying to get in there. We're on a corner, so we get 1, 2 and 3. Remember that one there, don't forget it, it's right next to the corner. We get 1, we get 2 and 3. I'm going into space, counting my first 1, 2 and 3, space. I just like the way Ed finishes it as well if I go into a space. 2 and 3, space, 2 and 3. Just flattening it out a bit, making sure it's okay. It is. Space, 2 and 3, then corner, so we need 3 anyway. 1, 2 and 3 for the corner. Don't forget that tight up one there. 1, 2 and 3. In the pattern, it will just tell you to do 1 double crochet in the top of each treble, but making sure it's 3 in the corner, and that's really all you need to know. Go. I think just doing the extra different colour on the sort of this last bit, it just makes it stand out a bit. And also, if you're joining lots of squares together, sometimes it's nice to have this colour, and then when you're crocheting them together, you've got the same colour all the way around, and it just makes you sort of crochet together a little bit neater, and you're not worrying about having to sort of match colours up, which can be a bit difficult at times. And 3, we have our corner, 3 stitches, 1, 2 and 3. The ball's gone the opposite way now. It's there. Ow, nearly went off the table. Other side. We're nearly there. Last side, that was the last corner. In fact, we're on the last side now. So again, space or stitch, up to you. 1 and 2. 1, last stitches. 1, 2, and remember we did that double crochet at the beginning, and that is where we need to slip stitch into, pull it through, cut it off, and we're done. That is my submission granny square. You can see we have quite a few ends to be sewing in there, which is a bit of a pain. It does sit flat. Again, if we want to tighten that hole up, remember that first bit, and I would make sure that's sewn in nice and tight to keep that center point there. These are quite nice designs, because if you wanted to add a button or something like that to give your sort of squares a little bit more sort of detail to them, it looks great with a button on it, a bead on it. It can look really, really pretty. So as you can see, this one's gone a little bit flatter because it's been flattened since, and obviously that's why I'm mentioning we've got the same colors now, so we could actually crochet or stitch that together without it being overly visible, which is always a good thing when we are doing that. I'm just having a quick check to make sure I've told you everything regarding granny square. I will pop some hashtags and some details below for you to actually have a look at. Don't forget, it's 15th of August this year, and get involved. It's great. Even if you're just looking at what other people have done, it gives you inspiration and ideas. And definitely look into Woolly Hugs as far as the charity is concerned that Simply Crochet are supporting. And in the 5th of August, we have the Simply Crochet magazine, which has the extra granny square supplement. So if you've bought this magazine, you get even more granny squares with the next one. Also, just last one to mention, Simply Crochet now have something called Gathered How, which is lots of different crafts. So that is going to be doing a free download patterns every Wednesday from the 14th of July up until the 11th of August. Now, it's a new website. Again, I'll pop the link in below. And I'm very pleased to say on the 9th of August, I've got my micro granny square earrings going in. Well, it's earrings and a necklace. Absolutely love doing that. I need to get some more done for me, because I can't remember whether they sent them back. Sometimes they send you projects back. I need to have a look. If they sent it back, I could wear them on there. Otherwise, I'm going to make myself another pair anyway, so I can show you them in my ears. So that's going to be something else. So just get involved, just enjoy it, share the granny square love there. And if you enjoy doing those sorts of crochet things, it's great. Please let me know if you do submit one. Pop me a comment, pop me a like. Please like, subscribe and share if you enjoy what I do. And I hope you're going to join me again, because we have another sort of granny square pattern. It's not going to be this one, and I might do some other designs on the jewellery. I'm thinking about that. I might make some different earrings for you to do, but that will be using a much finer thread. So we're going to have a play with that as well. So again, thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope you get on with these granny squares, and keep an eye out for August the 15th, particularly on Instagram. That is where the main information is going to be. Simply Crochet do have their own Facebook, which is called SC Treble Makers. So that is something else you could have a look on, because I think you can download your images on there as well. I didn't do that last year because that was something I wasn't aware of, but I'm going to pop over there this time to have a look. So I need to think of some other granny square designs for me to be able to put mine up there as well, because obviously I can't use the ones that are already in the magazine. So I'm going to say bye-bye again for about the 4th time, aren't I? And I will see you all very soon, and thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye for now.